Hi, I'm Rahel, and we're talking today with Dr. Mordechai Kedar. He is the director of the Center for the Study of Middle East and Islam, which is actually in formation. He's a research associate of the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies. He's a lecturer in the Department of Arabic at Bar Ilan University in Israel. He's a Middle East analyst of the daily Makor Rishon, and he's frequently interviewed in the Israeli, Arab, and international media, very famous for a particular interview on Al Jazeera. He served for 25 years in the IDF, the Israel Defense Forces, in the military intelligence, specializing in Syria, Arab political discourse, Arab mass media, Islamic organizations, and Israeli Arabs. Dr. Kedar is one of the Israel's leading figures in understanding the Arab world. Now, I have known Dr. Kedar for a little while when I had a radio show, and he's been a frequent guest, and I have learned that when Dr. Kedar talks, I listen very carefully. Welcome to America, Dr. Kedar.
My pleasure, my honor.
And I thought we could begin with trying to understand language a little bit, definitions of words. For example, the word peace, the word immigration, the word human rights. My understanding is that Western world has one understanding when we speak about these words and use these words, and the Eastern world has a different understanding. Can you fill us in a little bit about that?
Well, first let's start with peace. Peace in Arabic is salam. The religion of most Arabs are Islam. It is accustomed to think that salam, peace, is connected to Islam, and Islam therefore is the religion of peace. This is some kind of a false presentation. Islam doesn't mean peace, it means submission. Maybe peacefully or peaceful submission, but it is a submission to Allah and to His laws. It doesn't mean peace. Peace, according to Western mindset, is normal relations, good relations between two states which are separate, sovereign, and independent from each other. This enabled those two states to sign peace agreement or any other agreement which will control the relations between these states, and this is what peace is. According to the Islamic tradition, peace is something totally different. It is not between states, but it is between communities. Let's say Jews, Muslims, Christians, Druze, Alawis, Buddhists, whatever communities there are, who all live under the Islamic rule. This is peace, because between the Islamic State and other states which are not Islamic, there cannot be peace. Because Islam, according to its view, its mission is to spread Islam over other countries, over other nations, because the world is divided between Dar al-Islam and Dar al-Harb, means the house of Islam or Islamdom, where Islam rules, and Dar al-Harb means the house of war, is where Islam doesn't rule yet and will rule, inshallah, in the East after they succeed to defeat the other world. So definitely peace cannot exist principally between Islamic State and infidel state. Yet there is peace, as we see in the world today, where many Islamic states recognize other states which are not Islamic. This peace is based on a temporary peace which the Prophet Muhammad signed with the infidels of Mecca when he saw that he cannot defeat them. But And this peace was temporary for 9 years, 9 months, and 9 days. And it was signed near the village of Hudaybiyah.
Which century was this?
It was exactly in the year of 628, means in the 7th century in the Arab Peninsula. This year was for almost 10, this peace was almost for 10 years. Yet, after 2 years, in the year of 630, when the Prophet Muhammad understood that those infidels in Mecca, his counterparts for this peace, went to business and he can raid Mecca and to occupy it, so he raided Mecca and occupied it. And this was only 2 years after he signed the peace agreement for 9 years, 9 months, and 9 days. Means that as long as the infidels are powerful and invincible, peace can endure. While if Allah gives the Muslims the ability and the opportunity to attack the infidels and to violate the peace, they do it because this is the precedent of the Prophet Muhammad who did the same thing. So peace can be between Islamic State and other states if the other states are invincible.
Right.
And this peace will continue as long as those other states are invincible.
So the main understanding then is that Islam is the way, and most or all of the world should be under Islamic, submit to Allah, and this is the meaning of peace.
Yes, this is when peace will reign all over the world. After all, look, according to the Quran has a verse, Inna dina indallahi al-Islam, means the religion at Allah's is Islam. Means Allah doesn't recognize any other religion. Allah doesn't know about any other religion after Islam came to the world to replace Judaism and Christianity. And since Islam came to the world in the 7th century, Judaism and Christianity lost everything which they had. This is why Muslims had no problem building mosques over synagogues and over churches, as happened in numerous places. On the Temple Mount there was a church, now it is a mosque. In the city of Ramla in Israel, in Damascus, the main Umayyad mosque is built on a church. You can find it in Istanbul, in the Hagia Sophia church, which was turned into a mosque. You can see it in Spain in various places. So definitely, since Islam came to the world, Christianity lost its value and its meaning. So why those Christians need churches? So let the churches turn into mosques. This is how Islam viewed, especially in those years, Judaism and Christianity. And in some cases, many Muslims, until this very day, still think in this way.
This is still the belief system now. Some people call Islam a religion, and some are saying that it's an ideology. What is your take on this?
All the above. Means it is a religion which has what to say about the relations between human being and the deity. Yet, Islam has much to say about everything in the world. Politics, economy, structure, planning, everything should be according to Islam. There is nothing in the world which should not be under the Islamic aegis. This is why Islam is much more than a religion, because it doesn't control the relations between human being and the deity. It has much what to say on every other aspect of human life.
This is quite a big idea. Now, I know that this is somewhat of a large topic. This idea of tribes, of thinking in a tribal way. a tribal mentality. How is this working in the Middle East? Is the Middle East being set up as many countries or many tribes, and how does that work?
Well, traditionally, and until this very day actually, many Arab societies are divided, or I would say fragmented, according to four axes of fragmentation. One is the ethnic axis. For example, Iraq is a state with Arabs and Kurds and Turkmens and some Persians as well. All these are fragmented according to another axis, which is the tribal axis, a subdivision of the ethnic division. And in Iraq, there are some 76 tribes.
In Iraq?
Only in Iraq. Now we will show a slide of the Iraqi tribes.
Okay.
In addition to this division, in Iraq there are several religions. There are Muslims, and this is the third axis of fragmentation. There are Muslims, there are Christians, there are some Jews, Sabbais, Mandays, Zoroastrians, Baha'is, and a little number of Druze and Alawis as well. So all the religions of the Middle East actually are in Iraq. This is the third axis. And the fourth axis of division is the communal axis, means the Shi'is and the Sunnis in the Islamic framework, and the different denominations which are in the Christian communities. So definitely a state for Iraq, and not only Iraq, Syria, and others, and Afghanistan as well, are states which are highly fragmented. According to these, at least 2 or 3 from these 4 axes of fragmentation. Tribes exist in Iraq, in Jordan, in Syria, in Yemen, Saudi Arabia. You can find tribal societies in Sinai, which is part of Egypt. You can see them in Tunisia, in Libya, Algeria, Morocco. There is actually no state in the Arab world which doesn't have a tribal regions or tribal society inside, in addition to the cities, which usually are not as tribal as the villages and the deserts. Tribalism is something which America, or people in America, are not aware of. Imagine that a complete city, let's say Manchester, New Hampshire, are all family. Everybody is a family of each other. Either cousin or second cousin or third cousin, fourth cousin. Everybody is the same family or clan or extended family. And they have their own dialect. The minute somebody from Manchester, New Hampshire, opens his mouth, everybody knows where he is from. They marry the daughters inside the city. They will never give the daughters out to anybody from another city because they are not of us. They will have businesses only with people in the city because they don't trust anybody else from another tribe, because the Manchester tribe do not trust anybody else, and nobody else trusts them because they are different from others. They have their own territory, they have their own interests, their own sources of income, and they have their own leadership, they have their own laws, which are in many cases different from the state laws. But the tribe laws are much more important. And they have a fighting militia, vicious militia, armed to its teeth, and they have positions all around the city, and they protect the city and the interests, and nobody dares to enter Manchester, New Hampshire, because everybody is afraid of this militia of the Manchesterians because they, first of all, they will shoot you, then they will find out who you were and what you wanted. And so this is, in a nutshell, what tribalism is. The main issue in the tribe is the culture of shame and honor. Because
Shame and honor is a very important thing.
Because if a person, especially if it is a woman or a young lady, brings shame on the tribe by behavior which is unacceptable, usually the punishment would be, especially in the young ladies' cases, if they bring shame by too liberal behavior, usually the punishment will be to wash the shame by using her blood when she will be decapitated. So definitely it's not according to the state law, but this is the tribe law. So the state, therefore, is viewed as the enemy, because the state tries to impose on Manchester the idea that a young lady of 22 years old is free to do whatever she likes, with whoever she likes, whenever she likes, because she's a grown-up. But the tribe views her, as long as she's not married, as somebody who has to be far away from any liberal behavior, because she brings shame on the family. So definitely the state law is different, and there is some kind of tension between the tribe, which has its own laws, and the states, which tries to impose on the tribe the state laws. Another good example is if your brother or of another tribeman killed somebody else. According to the state law, you shouldn't hide him. You should even give him in, because if you don't do this, you are a partner in crime. But according to the tribe law, you have to hide him, because he's your cousin. You have to give him shelter or enable him to run away in a way that he will never be caught. So, but if you do this, according to the state law, you are a criminal. According to the tribe, you are a hero. So what would you do?
I'm very conflicted, and this whole description makes me wonder how anybody gets along in the Middle East at all. How does this work?
Very well. Because somebody who is born into this framework of a tribe, he learns from his first days that this is living in here is some kind of a trade-off. You give up on your individualism, on your independence, and in return, you get support. If you break a leg, somebody else from the family or from the tribe will come to take your children to school. Somebody will give money to your wife so she can go to the market and to buy stuff. Nobody will be in your home hungry. Everything will be okay, even if you lie in bed with your leg up because you broke your leg. So definitely the framework of the family takes care of the individual if he needs care, if he needs help, in return to the fact that the one is obedient to the collective. So this is a kind of trade-off. If you decide that you don't want to live in the framework of the tribe, you will leave the tribe, but you can't expect that if something happens to you, nobody will come to help you and to support you. So leave it or take it.
So now you have a huge region of a huge area of very fragmented different tribes trying to get along somehow. And this works because if they submit to Allah, if they're under one.
Yes. Islam was meant from the beginning to unite all the tribes of the Arab Peninsula, which were fighting each other for centuries, under one aegis, to unite them under one aegis of Islam, to make them into ummah, means a nation, based on the idea of Islam, and to direct their energy to the other areas in the world to occupy other countries, to spread Islam over countries, to loot, to take whatever they can. And actually, this is what they did since the 7th century, when they destroyed the Byzantine Empire on one side and the Persian Emirate in the east, and many other local kingdoms wherever they went. And actually, this is how Islam spread itself on all the space from Indonesia in the east all the way to Morocco and Spain in the west, by conquering and by imposing Islam on these lands, usually by force.
But with the goal of unifying, so to speak.
This was the slogan, this was the idea. Yet, this idea never succeeded to become the name of the game. Right after Muhammad passed away in the year of 632, some tribes felt that they are not committed anymore to the Islam as a unit, and they left it. So the first wars which Islam waged were against those tribes. It was the Hurub al-Ridda, means the wars of apostasy, because those who left the Islamic Union actually left the religion as well. So the first caliphs, Umar ibn al-Khattab, and the first one, Abu Bakr,
the caliph being a
substitute to Muhammad, they waged vicious wars on those tribes which dared to leave the Islamic Union and forced Islam on them again.
Okay, so history shows us that the spread of Islam was done in a rather violent way.
Yes.
And we see still today similar methods going on. We know that there's a very violent part of Islam. I was in your lecture the other day, and you mentioned that there's another kind of a strategy going on, which you mentioned was called hijrah, immigration.
Yes.
Can you talk about that?
Immigration in Islam is viewed in a different way as it is viewed by Western societies. Usually in the West, when somebody immigrates from his homeland, it is usually because he has to. Either he is unemployed, or he wants to have better job, or better income, better life, safer life in some cases. So if the man would be given the choice whether to stay at home with his family, with his society, or immigrate, usually people would prefer to stay in their homeland as long as they can live normal life in their homeland. They are not willing to emigrate to other places deliberately. In Islam, it is totally different. In Islam, the hijrah, means the immigration, is viewed as the thing which men should do, because again, it is based on the Prophet Muhammad. He emigrated from the hijrah, from Mecca to Medina in the year of 622. And this is when Muslims start to count their calendar, history. Not when he was born, not when he was circumcised, like Christianity, not when he started to have the revelation or in the prophecy from Allah, nothing. Only when he became a ruler, a leader, and the commander of an army after the immigration. Means that the immigration enables the Muslim to spread Islam on other countries, to become the owner of this country, to become the leader, and to become the commander of the army in the place where he immigrated to, in order to continue to other places, to immigrate to other places, in order to subjugate them to Islam. This is why the immigration is a positive thing, and actually you immigrate to your homeland. You don't immigrate from your homeland. The homeland is where you immigrate to. And from there you immigrate again, or your son or your grandson will immigrate to another country. And this way Islam expands itself by the notion of immigration.
So, as you said the other day, in other words, when my ancestors, as a Jewish person, came to America, they came to make a better life, and they wanted to become Americans because being American would give them a better life. But with Islam, with Muslims, do they come to other countries in order to become part of that country, to become a citizen of that country, as our ancestors did, or is there something else? In other words, what you're saying that
I put it this way: at the beginning, when the first Muslims, as individuals, immigrate to a place, usually they come to have better life, safer life, jobs, house, healthcare, education, what good life means. And they come and they settle, and then come the others, the brothers, the sisters, the brothers-in-law, and so forth. And you can see it very clearly in Europe today. When they come to a stage, when they become the majority of a place, this is when they start to impose their rules over the place. For example, there are places in Europe already, or towns or townships, or so forth, where you cannot anymore sell porks in the supermarkets because it aggravates the Muslims, who are the majority in the place. You cannot sell any alcoholic beverages because they don't like it. In some places in Britain, Muslims recently started to demand that church bells will not make any noise because it aggravates the Muslims. In other places, they don't like to see the statue of Jesus Christ on the cross. They could still tolerate the cross, but not the human being shown on the cross, because they don't believe that it's allowed to have a human being as a statue. They try all what they can in order to impose their mindset and their way of thinking, to a degree that a colleague of mine who actually came from Algeria, he lives in France, he says, he admits actually, that Algerians do not move from Algeria to France, they actually move Algeria to France.
exactly?
And this is the situation today. When they come to big numbers in certain places, they start to feel that they are the owners of the place, and they are allowed to impose on the place their values, their Sharia, of course, and their way of conduct.
So this is a different, again, a different way of thinking about immigration. What is the purpose? We in America like to welcome people and embrace peoples and diversity, the whole thing.
And to put them into the melting pot.
In putting it into the melting pot, and
which America is.
Right, but to be thinking that they're going to become part of America, but this is not so.
Not at all.
Then. So this is never the goal.
Maybe the first ones who come for their own benefit or for their own good. But when larger number comes, and large numbers of people come, it changes. They go back to the origin, to the sources, to Islam, through mosques where imams come and turn them back to what they were and divert them from the Americanism or being American way of thinking. And when they are in large numbers, it works.
Can we talk a little bit about the mosques here in America and what's going on there?
Well,
and in the universities as well, the whole kind of influence that's happening now.
There are mosques which disseminate extremism, give out materials, books, pamphlets, booklets, which usually implicitly talk about the jihad against the infidels, against those who don't implement the Sharia. So implicitly, it's against America.
Now, the Sharia meaning Islamic law.
Islamic law, and all those who don't obey to Allah, one day will surrender to Islam. So this is the message which is being disseminated. Of course, they don't want to get in trouble with the law, so they behave in a way, but definitely the audience understand exactly what they mean by jihad against the infidels.
And what do they mean? Just for our viewers, so
Jihad
to make it clear.
Jihad
because this is a word
against America, against America, against the West, against Australia, Israel, New Zealand, all those countries which are not ruled by Islam, all those countries which disseminate their culture, Western culture, through the media, through the satellite TV. And of course, many Muslims today feel that they are under attack because of the Western civilization infiltrates into their societies. The daughters have cell phones, they watch TV and all what can be found, especially in the satellite TV, websites, through the internet. Definitely, the West succeeded to infiltrate into the home of the Muslim and to change the culture inside, because the youngsters today in many Islamic countries do not want to be like their parents. The girls do not want to be baby machines as their parents, especially the grandparents. Girls do not want to get married at the age of 14.
And be one of many wives?
And be one of many wives of a person. Definitely they want to look nicer, they want to enhance their appearance in many cases. Definitely they don't want to remain analphabet. They want to study, they want to be have profession, maybe to get married at the age of 24 or 5, and maybe have 2 kids and a dog. So definitely the Western ideas, Western values, and Western ways of thinking infiltrate into Islamic societies through the media usually, and create resentment within all kinds of clerics and radicals who view the West as something which tries to attack us culturally and morally. And the more the West succeeds to change the culture in Islamic societies, the more those are radicalized to a degree that they will come in order to destroy America by blowing airplanes into skyscrapers or institutions. So this is what inter alia pushes them. The fact that they view America as the spearhead of the onslaught on Islam by using the media and by disseminating destructive values into Islamic societies, especially when it comes to family issues, sex and gender.
I'm thinking what's going on in my mind is this issue of being deceitful. This, I believe it's called taqiyya.
Taqiyya.
Taqiyya. That it's allowed. It's sort of a way of life. As you say, that the Western values are infiltrating into Islamic values. Well, they can't really help that if they come to a Western society to live either.
Yes.
So how do they, you know, you're saying that they're going to be, that's going to radicalize them even more to
Definitely.
Want to attack more of our Western values and make us, you know,
we see it very nice. We see it very clearly today in France.
Mm-hmm.
As you might know, a few years ago, France had a law which prevents the hijab, the head cover, in public schools. So girls are not allowed, Islamic girls, are not allowed to go with a hair cover into public schools anymore. For Westerners, it looks natural. Why the heck should they have a hair cover, especially when it's hot? But their fathers usually see it in a totally different way. For a traditional man who came from Algeria to France, to send his daughter to school without a veil on her head if she's, let's say, 16 years old, it's just like for an American to send his daughter to school without a shirt, or maybe without a bra as well. The same thing. So they were definitely aggravated when France, and not only France, today is also in Germany and in Holland, had this law which prevents or which bans hijab in public schools. So what they do today is they circumvent it by going with hats which cover the ears and the neck and with scarf. So altogether, they cover the same as a hijab on their head. Okay, and this, the law doesn't prevent a hat. So this is how they cover today. The girls fully covered, nicely covered, and yet obey the law.
We have probably about 10 minutes or so, and there's so much that I want to get out of you, but thinking that I'm speaking to an American audience, and we have a lot of differences. Now, we've seen through our conversation that there are many differences in the way we view and understand the world. There's an Eastern way and there's a Western way. And so the question is, with so many differences in our cultural ways, in our definitions even of just words, we didn't even address the Israeli-Arab conflict, which I believe at this point is irrelevant to the greater Arab Spring and everything else that's happening these days. How can we, or can we at all, ever expect that there would be some kind of a peaceful solution? What kind of a solution to make these two sides somehow meet and live peacefully together? Is there such a thing that we can expect?
Well, today, the biggest obstacle to peace, not only in the Middle East but worldwide, is Iran. Just to show you how Iranians talk and what they show. I have here an original document. This is a weekly publication of, by the way, Hezbollah in Lebanon, which are Shiites, and they are quoting Khamenei, the leader of Iran, saying clearly, and it's in Arabic, published very clearly, that he considers that the whole Arab and Islamic world is the strategic depth of Iran. Means Iran actually uses the whole Middle East and the Islamic world as its own strategic depth.
What we call proxies.
Proxies, or subjugated. This is the way Iran looks at the area around Iran. And they actually act according to this. Already Iraq, today Iraq is controlled by Iran. And it is very agonizing to know that the United States of America poured so much blood and money on Iraq in order to liberate and to turn it into a democratic state. But now Iraq is controlled almost totally by Iran.
Which is amazing, considering that America did.
But this is the reality today, because this is what their goal is. And he says it clearly and explicitly. Second thing, the Iranians are willing to spread their hegemony on the Gulf. Kuwait already is in the discussions in the parliament whether to join Iran peacefully or not, because they understand that if Iran will take them over, as Iraq did in 1990, the world today will not come again to save them from the occupation, as the world did in 1991 when the world went and liberated Kuwait from the Iraqi occupation. Now, if Iran does it, especially if Iran turns nuclear, nobody will challenge Iran, even if it occupies Kuwait.
You're scaring me. Keep going.
Definitely. Yeah. The Emirates, the United Arab Emirates, Dubai, Abu Dhabi, Fujairah, and so forth, Qatar, and Saudi Arabia are all shivering from fear, that Iran will take them over in a way or another.
Even Saudi Arabia.
Even Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia is particularly attractive for the Iranians because of at least three reasons. First of all, the Iranians want to annex to Iran the eastern districts of Saudi Arabia because they are populated by Shiites who are viewed by the Wahhabis, the Saudi Wahhabis, as infidels. And under the feet of the Shiites, there is the oil, which is in the eastern district. So two good reasons why to take over the eastern parts of Saudi Arabia. Yet, much more attractive is the western part of Saudi Arabia, which is Mecca and Medina. Because if Iran succeeds to take over Mecca and Medina by toppling the Saudi government or the kingdom, they will return to the 7th century and they will put a Shiite, the caliph. Because the caliphate was taken from the Ahl al-Bayt, means the people of the house of Muhammad, Ali bin Abi Talib, the founder of the Shia, in the mid-7th century. So definitely, the Gulf is very attractive for the Iranians, first of all because of the oil, and if they succeed to spread their hegemony over Iraq, which already done, and the Emirates, and Saudi Arabia, and the rest of the Gulf, they will control some almost 60%, 60% of the whole world reserve of oil and gas. They will be able to manipulate the prices as they want. Just imagine what they can do then to some countries in Europe, which are in any way on the edge of the abyss. So,
and Russia.
Russia as well. So definitely the obstacle to peace in the Middle East and in the world is Iran, because they already know how to launch missiles from submarines. The only component which they still miss is nuclear warhead. Once they know, once they can launch a missile from a submarine, and this missile carries nuclear warhead, they can control the whole world from under the seas.
Wow. Now, what does America do in this case, since we're sitting here in America? And how does Israel fit into the picture? We'll talk about in a minute. But, you know, do we therefore engage in negotiation? Is that such a thing that can happen, a negotiation? Or does it end up with a might is right type of deal?
The world negotiates with Iran already 16 years, since 1996. They continue with the nuclear program as if there are no negotiations, and they keep negotiating with the world as if they don't have nuclear program.
Well, this is part of the Islamic way, you're saying.
This is part of how they behave. It is based on the notion of taqiyya, of to hide what you do in order to save it. And actually, some year ago, the Khamenei, the leader of Iran, admitted explicitly that yes, they deceived the world in some cases in order to enable themselves to continue with the nuclear program. Definitely, he said it explicitly. So this is how they deal with the world, because I'll tell you, those ayatollahs in Iran, they view themselves as a Bait al-Iman, means the house of the belief. Americans are Bait al-Kufr, means the house of infidelity. And they keep asking themselves, how come those wine drinkers and swine eaters are coming to us, the believers, to tell us what we can do or we cannot do? Who gave them the permission? We are connected to Allah. Look, I'll show you another pamphlet which they published. Khamenei has, according to this scenery, some kind of connection or discourse with this hidden imam, with light, with the divine light on earth. He gets the wisdom from Allah through the imam. He is infallible according to their belief. If he decides something, who are the others to tell them what to do and what not to do? This is how they view themselves, as super people, above everything. And according to them, al-Islam ya'lu wa la yu'al alayhi, means Islam is superior and nothing is above Islam. Which reminds us about another slogan, Deutschland über alles. And another image
Which for our viewers who might not know, is about
Germany is
Germany
above
and
all the others from
Right.
the 30s and the 40s. Another pamphlet which Jay keeps showing is Khomeini, the one who founded the Islamic Revolution. And he, again, is enlightened by the divine light, which enlightens his eyes, his head, his mouth, his chest, and his hands. Means everything which he views, thinks, says, feels, and does is enlightened by the divine light. This is why he is also infallible. So who are the Americans or the Brits or the French or the Germans, or not to mention the Israelis, to tell the Iranians what to do and what not to develop? Definitely they have no right to talk to us even. This is how they look at the world from their own point of view. And this is why the problem in Iran is the regime before the nuclear program.
And what do we see as any kind of a solution? How do we envision a future, a peaceful future for the world, with this as sort of a undercurrent rumble going on?
When you deal with Middle East or people who come from the Middle East, you have to carry in mind all the time that peace, according to their mindset, is given only to the invincible.
Which would be the Khomeini and
If America and
the
Europe
larger
and
right.
Europe and Israel and the others and the West in general is viewed as invincible, they will give peace.
Which brings us back to what we started with, the whole.
Right. This is unfortunately the culture of the Middle East. The one who crawls and asks for peace, he will get a kick behind and will be ousted from the club. Their view is that the Middle East, and maybe the world in general, is a place only for the powerful ones, those who know how to manage their interests, and those who succeed to intimidate the others and to push them to their places with this clear saying, beware what you do, because I am here and I have a very heavy stick in my hand and I will use it. And a threat is nothing unless it is a credible threat.
It needs to be acted on. It needs to be proven.
And this is, by the way, the only way how to convince the Iranians to give up on their nuclear program, by a message, very clear message, which will be sent to them by the world, that, dear friends and colleagues in Tehran, you have exactly 1 week to load all your nuclear program on a ship or 2 or 3, as many as you need. You have exactly a week to do this. In the end of this week, we start to flattening you, and we are already warm the engines around you. All the air forces and the navies and the ground forces are accumulating around you, and take us seriously, because in a week time we are starting to flatten you. The more credible this message is, or this threat is, the more are the chances that the West will not be forced to use the force. Because if they take you seriously, they will surrender. They will never surrender as long as they don't take you seriously. And so far, Iran does not take anybody seriously, especially not America. This is why they will continue with their nuclear program until they achieve the ability to impose their mindset and their agenda on the world entirely.
Well, that's a very definite, very interesting forecast, and we hope
Yes,
that.
and I'm more than sure, therefore, that Israel will not sacrifice itself
Right.
to save the world, because Iran is the problem of the world before it is a problem of Israel. Israel also, in the whole framework, yes. I'm not saying that Israel is on the moon, but Israel will not enter a war with Iran by itself, as much as I understand, and I'm not a friend of the Prime Minister, but this is what my analysis is, that Israel will not sacrifice itself by itself in order to save the world from the Iranian problem, which is the problem of the whole world.
We've just sort of got probably about a minute. We've talked really on the whole and large scale about the Middle East. Do we want to say anything finally about Israel?
Yes, here in Israel, first of all, Israel is proven again as the only democracy in the Middle East, as an island of sanity within a swamp of extremism, radicalism, blood, tears, and fire. However, Israel is also a bastion of knowledge, of academic institutions, and we, Bar-Ilan University, are about to establish a new center for the study of the Middle East and Islam, center which will say the truth, and this is the proposal for this center.
The Center for the Study of the Middle East and Islam.
At Bar-Ilan University.
Bar-Ilan University in Tel Aviv.
Which will not be bought by Gulf money, which will say the truth about what happens in the world today, especially in the Middle East, which will educate the world to see the real things which threaten the world. This center still waits for somebody who would like to give the name to the center and to sponsor this center at Bar-Ilan University. And whoever wants to contact us about this center, we are more than willing to contact him back.
We are going to give the information, contact information for you, and we want to definitely promote such a thing.
Thank you very much.
To make that happen, because I think that, from all of this that we've learned today, and there's so much more to learn and understand, and we had only a brief hour to get there. I think we had to start from square one to get some basic definitions, and I hope that we can go further from there, and this would be a way for people to really learn.
Definitely.
And get involved, and
we, the professors and the lecturers in this center, we all speak Arabic, read Arabic. We are exposed to the sources in the Arab world, unlike many other research centers about the Middle East, where people do not have Arabic or Turkic or Persian or Pashto or others. And this is why what they produce, in many cases, misses the reality of these places, because the researchers do not have direct access to the sources of the Middle East. We, in this Center of the Study of the Middle East and Islam at Bar-Ilan University, have direct access to the sources of knowledge in the Middle East.
It's wonderful.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Dr. Kedar, unfortunately, we've come to the end, and I could talk to you all night. I've only just started to ask you questions, but we have to come to an end, and so I really thank you for being here in America. You're on a tour for the next month, and you've come back every year, from what I can tell. And
conferences and lectures, yes.
People can go to Israel
Definitely.
and meet you there.
Definitely. Are we honored?
So thank you so much.
My pleasure, Rahel.
I'm Rahel, and we thank Dr. Kedar. Thank you.